Hi guys, Josh here, aka Beards and Books. What I want to do for you today is a book review of one of the books that I've recently finished, which is Forever and a Day, the latest James Bond novel by Anthony Horowitz. Now, for those of you that maybe aren't aware of the book, this book came out on the 31st of May, I believe, not too long ago. It's a relatively short book, just over 300 pages. And if you're a James Bond fan, it's definitely one worth reading. If you're not a James Bond fan, or if you're like myself and you're somewhere in the middle, listen to this review. Maybe this will help you decide, but I personally did enjoy the book, just to chuck that in there at the start. Without further ado, let's begin. So for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with the author, Anthony Horowitz is an author that is mainly known for YA series up until a couple of years ago. So he wrote the Alex Rider book series, which is a kind of teen spy drama, which was a long-running series. I think it did just over 10 books. Now, he, not too long ago, only a couple of years ago, did some of the newer Sherlock Holmes novels, which were well received. And in 2015, he was asked by the Ian Fleming estate to write the latest James Bond books. So he's wrote two up until this point. Trigger Mortis, which is the prequel to Casino Royale, and Forever and a Day, the latest James Bond novel, which explains how James Bond becomes 007. So this review will contain spoilers, guys. Unfortunately, I can't fully review the book without putting them in, so if you don't want to hear spoilers, look away now. Now, the book opens with the death of the original 007. Now, as I mentioned, this book is how James Bond essentially becomes 007, how it starts his story. One of the interesting facts I found with the book is that James Bond knew the original 007, which adds a kind of personal level to the story and to the character. It's not explored massively in the book, and it's something I would have liked to have seen more of, but it did add an interesting element, at least in the start of the series and the start of the story. Now, without trying to give too much of the plot away, James Bond's first main mission essentially starts with him being sent to Sweden to kill a target set by M. Now, a more interesting side to James Bond that we don't necessarily see in the newer films or the newer books, his lack of experience leads him to essentially question what he's there to do. He goes against the MO of the mission, wanting to question the subject essentially when he was told purely to go there, kill him, make it look like a robbery and get out. Now, in talking to the target, what James does is he tries to justify to himself what he's doing and why he's there. Whether this aids him in any way, you can't really say. It doesn't seem to impact the book or the story too much, but I think what it does show is the unsure side of James Bond that we're not necessarily used to seeing. James Bond in the more recent films and novels is the experienced super agent that we're used to seeing. So the more sensitive, unsure side was an interesting part to read. So going more into the character of the story, the Bond girl in this book is a woman called 16, who's kind of a double agent slash bad guy in the grey. She's not necessarily out to get James Bond, but she's not his best friend either at the start of the series. Now, James stumbles across 16 in a casino early on, and he quickly grows attached to the character, and you can see he quickly has an affection for the character. The character 16 is very well written. She's got a very interesting and rich history, which adds a lot to the character. I think it's a character that was done very well in the book, and I look forward to seeing her if it is made into a film at a later date. Regarding the bad guy or bad guys, the antagonists in the James Bond book are probably its weak point, essentially. Now, there is more than one bad guy. I won't give away names to spoil anything for any of you that are looking to read the book. They're done okay. Their reasoning and their means for revenge are slightly questionable, and the way they look to go about and get their revenge, for me, I couldn't help but think there are a lot of easier ways of doing this than their chosen method. It's an interesting method. It's not something I'd ever come across before in a book or a film, and I'm sure you'll find it interesting too, but the characters themselves weren't particularly well written and they weren't particularly interesting. Overall, I found Forever and a Day a very interesting book. It was well written. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, so please don't go in there expecting a 10 out of 10 book. I would, however, give it a 7 out of 10. The main bad points and the main points that pulled it down for me is the antagonist. It could have been done better. Whilst it was interesting, it was by no means perfect. I am definitely going to pick up Trigger Mortis, which is the other Anthony Horowitz James Bond book, so it did enough to at least make me want to read more of the way Anthony Horowitz is writing the character. Now guys, let me know if you've read Forever and a Day, let me know your thoughts and feelings on this, and equally, Trigger Mortis, is it one I should pick up or not? If not, have you got any alternatives you'd suggest? I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you soon.